brought up a good word, culture. What we try to do is we start with a safety culture. And a lot of companies think that, hey, they tell their people, be safe, be safe. You'll never get a culture. It has to start from the top, and it takes time to work its way down.
Welcome to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast, featuring expert insights, interviews with thought leaders, and business plan triage. Hosted by Kyle Golding, award-winning entrepreneur, CEO, and chief strategic idealist for the Golden Group.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Golding, and I'm joined today by a special guest, Jeffery Barnett from Boston Safety and Compliance. Good to see you today, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
So tell everyone what Boston Safety and Compliance is and what you do and who you serve.
Who I serve is companies in construction, manufacturing, or oil and natural gas industries. I work with smaller to medium-sized companies. Why? Because anyone higher than that, they can hire their own safety personnel. What I do is I replace a full-time safety person for those smaller companies that cannot afford someone like myself. What I do is I try to keep you in OSHA compliance, or if something does happen, you're looking at an OSHA fine between $7,000 to $16,000.
Wow.
And it's simple as can you talk their language? And what do they want? Well, I go in there and I save you a lot of time, and I save you a lot of money by basically handling all that for you. Try to get your safety modifier from your insurance company down. And that's the key thing, is to try to keep not only your OSHA fines, but your accidents, and most important of all, your modifier down, so that we can have a productive company. And basically what I tell people is, if I cost you money, then basically I'm not doing my job.
Right. Saving people money is
I
what
do
it's all
save
about,
it. It
right?
just doesn't follow, like, you don't get a paycheck from me. You don't get a company, you're paying me, but in the long run, a lot of companies will end up saving thousands and thousands of dollars. Sure. I have numerous case studies of where I've saved people bucos of dollars from somebody suing them, to a workers' comp, to relieving them with their OSHA fines.
But also, even just to increase productivity, right? When someone gets hurt on the job, they have to be replaced, or a temporary that has to be trained.
Yes, that's exactly true. What I try to do is, by doing this, we keep everybody on the job site. Okay, the more people on the job site cost you less money. You don't have to keep training over and over again. We train we train every day, every week, every month, every year, depending on the company and how we handle it. But that's a different type of training. When I have to retrain everybody, then it costs you a lot more money, and HR gets upset with that.
Plus, you cannot have a great company culture if people are getting hurt all the time or being replaced all the time, right? You need some continuity, and people need to feel good about going to work every day because they know how to stay safe.
Correct. That's the thing is you brought up a good word, culture. What we try to do is we start with a safety culture. And a lot of companies think that, hey, they tell their people, be safe, be safe. You'll never get a culture. It has to start from the top, and it takes time to work its way down. And, the owner has to believe in that culture to get it to that point.
We talk a lot about crisis communication, and about how being prepared before a crisis is the best way to, of course, you want to avoid a crisis or avoid an accident, avoid a fall. You want to, once it starts to happen, be in control of it, but that happens if you're prepared. So same thing on the safety, right? The more preparation you have, the better you're going to be when it happens, because let's face it, much like we don't want to use our insurance, but we sure need it when it happens.
Correct. You brought up a really good point. Something's going to happen. It's inevitable. But how do we handle that crisis? And once we teach someone how to handle the crisis gets done quicker and a lot cheaper. That's what we want to make sure. So if someone does get hurt, what do we do? When someone's running around, it causes more problems, more issues. It sounds ridiculous, but if you look at let's look here in Oklahoma, when you have a tornado, people that are prepared don't have as much problems as those that are not prepared. Can you get hit even though you're prepared? Yes. But who can handle it more? Right. You talk to your insurance companies, you have your safety precautions, your family knows where you are, we're not worried about you. Why? Because when it does happen, we know where to go. That's the same thing. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, but when it does happen, we want to be prepared on how to handle all those little crises that come up.
So what are some of the biggest red flags, the mistakes you see businesses make on a regular basis that if they were just prepared just a little bit, they could avoid?
Oh my gosh. They don't think they need the training. They don't think, they think, oh, I've done this way for so long. I have subcontractors, and my subcontractors, I have a a legal document. That legal document's great in court. That legal document is not good against OSHA, because an OSHA fine, they don't care what that legal document is. You are considered just like any large general contractor. You are a general contractor, and they're your subcontractor. You're responsible for their safety. See, Flintco's tried this, and Flintco's one of the largest, and they're a great company. Okay, but if they did that, quote, and they have some great lawyers across the country. If they can't get out of it, how are you, a small company with a small attorney? We're talking a large amount of attorneys. They know they have to require it. They go above and beyond. They're the pinnacle. So that's why I use them. I'm not bad-mouthing these people because they're a great company. But if they did things the way some people think they do, they would not be where they are today. Because of what they do, and they require so much beyond what OSHA says, is the reason why I know that when people say, oh, I got a contract, that's not going to work, because Flintco's already went down that avenue, and trust me, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be the great company they are if that was true.
Learning those lessons from people doing it right.
Correct.
And, of course, learning lessons from past mistakes.
That helps too.
OSHA is one of those agencies that kind of like the IRS. Like everyone's afraid of it. No one really wants to deal with it. But if depending on what kind of businesses you're in, you're going to have to. So much like none of us want to deal with the IRS, so we hire a CPA. So having a professional that we already have a relationship makes dealing with OSHA a whole lot less scary.
That is correct. Now, people think OSHA's out there to go after them. No. I can tell you right now, they're more wanting to make sure everything is safe. We do not have a state OSHA. We have a state, we do, but we don't. What do I mean by that? We are controlled by federal OSHA. In other words, they're the ones that come out. We have a state OSHA. Our state OSHA comes in, and what they'll do is you ask them to come in. And what they'll do is help you make sure your job site, your buildings, wherever you have, are in compliance. And they help you. They're a resource. They're like having a book with the intelligence behind it. They're not going to cite you, but they are going to make sure that everyone's safe. OSHA's main objective is to make sure we're all safe. Very simple is, back in the 30s, we had unions. They got really strong in the 50s and 60s. The federal government came in and said, hey, we're going to protect our own employees. So they made laws protecting their own employees. So during the 60s, when we had the Clean Air, Clean Water Act, Clean This, Clean That Act, and we started cleaning up in our environment, two senators came out and said, hey, why aren't we protecting all employees? So they came out with the OSHA Act, which stands for Occupational Safety and Health Act, which eventually turned around to be the Occupational Health Administration. So that's what they're there for. They're literally there to make sure you go home every night. They're not there to tell you you're bad people. And most of your investigators are out there to make sure everyone is safe. They're not like what people think they are. They're good people. They're just trying to do their job and do it good and do it well.
We've mentioned no one wants to deal with OSHA, and it's a lot like insurance. You need it until you don't need. No, you need it till you need it. Yep. And so often I would assume you probably run into a lot of people who really don't want to talk about safety or talk about these things because they're afraid that it could happen to them, or they just don't want to be negative. So how do you have conversations with people about how to really prepare and protect their business? That's
a conversation that's difficult. They have to be willing to open up. And like I said, OSHA is there. Everybody thinks they're big bad. They're not like the IRS. They're the opposite of the IRS. IRS don't care about you. The IRS is going after you. OSHA is more wanting to protect the employee, protect these companies. They don't want to put a company underneath. They don't want to hurt a company. They're willing to work with people. They put on so many things. They have so many resources. If you go to the IRS website, oh my gosh, you have to be a CPA to navigate this thing. You go to OSHA and you put up something, they'll send you all kinds of pamphlets. The information is overwhelming. They're there to protect you and help companies thrive and be successful and safe. They're not, people think they're there to destroy your company. They want to fine you. OSHA does not need the fines. They will much rather just not fine you but make sure you're safe. So people have a bad reputation of OSHA or bad taste in their mouth about OSHA. They're not what you think they are. They're there to help you. I'm on the opposite side, and I shouldn't be saying these things, you think, because, hey, I'm like the lawyer against OSHA. No, that's not the way it is. We have great relationships. I know most of the inspectors. I know all the people in management. We know each other because we talk to each other. All we are trying to do is do the right thing so that people go home safe. And that's what people need, to have a better concept of what OSHA is. So let's get back to your question. Your question was, how do I talk to these people? The only thing I can do is they either have to have something go wrong, someone they know has had something go wrong, someone's gotten a fine, and they say, hey, I don't want this happening. That's a sad fact. But if they don't get to that point and they realize, oh, I need to do something, a lot of companies do. They come to me before. I'm able to help them out a lot, help them get to where they need to be. So that way it doesn't happen.
And a lot of your business is reacting when it does happen.
Yes, unfortunately it is.
And it's really hard sometimes to sort of put that into a box of monthly fees, retainers, all kinds of things of that nature. And we've had conversations previously how your philosophy is to get it fixed, get it taken care of, and then worry about that kind of stuff later. How did you develop the understanding of how business works in order to not be trying to nickel and dime people, but really be trying to value add for your relationships that you have with your clients?
After speaking with a lot of different big businesses, not just little people that are trying to build up, I've got to speak to people like Jack Warner. Kelly Hetherington's the guy who got me into this. Kelly's a great safety guy, one of the best out there. So I've got to be trained by one of the best. Will Blake. The philosophy is, if you treat people right, treat them, do it correctly. Right. Business will come. People will treat you right. I tell people, I give a lot of freebies out, and they say I'm stupid. But all the big people are telling me, no, you're not. You're doing the right thing because you're trying to make sure that people have the right stuff at the right time. Things will come. People will take care of you. I have some of the greatest customers in the world because I take care of them. They want to in turn take care of me. Why? Because we have a symbiotic relationship. They want me there now because they see the value of my services. So for me to help someone out, that's going to help me down the line. I believe in the yin and the yang. And that's how business really does work. Now, I can't give my services away for free all the time.
No, and no one should expect that, right? But there still should be value for both parties.
I believe that when I give you a quote and a price and I do the work, I'm going to give you more because I want to give you more value for for what you're getting.
Right.
Because if I give you more value, you're going to stick around and you're going to tell people, and I'm going to make more money in the long run with more people than I am trying to take more money from you. And I want you to have that value because I want you to stay doing the right thing. I want you people to be safe. That's the biggest thing with me, is making sure everyone's safe. Everyone goes home every night. Because let me tell you something, it doesn't always happen that way. Last week in New York City, they had a crane fall.
Yeah, I think everyone saw that. It was very dramatic.
Yes. I don't know exactly what happened at that. I haven't got the information on that yet. But we know that there was a human error. So we want to stop that. We want to fix that. That's what OSHA's to do, is we want to fix the human errors as much as possible. And has OSHA actually done good? Yes, we have statistics that prove that over the 30, 40, 50 years that they've been around, that things have gotten better. People are not dying as quickly. Right now in the United States, we're having problems with excavations. That's a big hot point, especially with OSHA. And so we're trying to work things out. And they're getting a hold of us, and they're talking to us, asking. See, OSHA doesn't know all the answers. They do, but they get a lot of their answers from not only consensus bureaus, but they get it from people like myself. So OSHA is not saying, hey, we're the know-all, the be-all. We go out, and they go out to the schools. They go out to people like myself, and they ask, hey, man, what's going on? How can we stop this? What are you seeing on, because I'm the boots on the ground. They ask us those questions. So OSHA's not just out there saying, hey, we're like the IRS. You do it our way and our way only. No, they take a lot of input. They listen to us. They listen to companies. They try to make it better and make the environment better for all of us.
You particularly try to spread as much information as possible. You make videos, you have conversations. You just mentioned you're about to keynote an event in Vegas soon.
Yes.
You're a big believer that the more information, the more preparation that's out there, the better off everyone ends up. And there's still value in the services that you offer at the top level.
Correct. I believe that educate. If they don't know it, the more they know, the more they understand. You just tell someone to do something, they're not going to buy in. To get them to buy in, we have to educate them and explain why we do this, why we do this, and how we do this. And they understand, and you let them have some input. I had a situation this morning. I talked to a foreman. I said, okay, what do you want to do? Okay, this is why you can't do it. So, and we worked it out, and I let him come to the conclusion of what we should do. Yes, I knew what I wanted, but I let him understand and let him figure out, okay, this is why we need to do it. So it gives him an opportunity to have a voice.
So as a business owner, you're the business owner, you're doing sales, you're doing customer service, you're doing the education piece, you're wearing many hats, many hard hats,
yes,
if you will.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part and your least favorite part?
The paperwork, of course.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But dealing with the people themselves and teaching is my favorite part. As most of us safety guys, we love to teach. And I'm a dynamic speaker. That's what people tell me. People go into my classes, they're like, wow, you just catch hold of people. That's why I love doing that. A lot of people don't, because I'm a natural public speaker, and most people aren't. They always ask me, how do you do that? How do you do that? Honestly, I can't tell you. Right. But I'm good at it, and I love doing that. But nobody wants to do the paperwork. Nobody wants to deal with the things that happen, bad things that happen, because somebody did something wrong, and now I've got to figure that out.
Right. And along the way, running your own business and learning through the process, what are some of the things that you learned or that you experienced that you thought would be easy, that were harder than you thought, and things that you thought would be hard or easier than you thought?
Actually, I was lucky, like I says. I got to meet a man named Kelly Heathington who got me into this. Kelly showed me the ropes way before I got into it. So I kind of knew what was easy, what was hard. I hate writing programs. And it's one of the things people ask me, I will literally try to talk them out of hiring me, but I will do it. I mean, because I have the knowledge. Programs just take a long time, and teaching, I know exactly how long that's going to take.
Right.
And so because I hate it, it's harder and harder. It's not that hard, but I make it hard.
Because you don't want to do it?
I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's just a pain. It's trying to put down on paper in legalese what we want everybody to know, but it's not so legalese that people understand it at the same time. So we want to cover ourselves on one basis and cover ourselves on another basis, and just writing it, it's time consuming. So that's why I don't like it, and that's why it becomes so hard for me to do it. I don't want to sit down and do it. I just do it.
But you got to do what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do. And I'm willing to do it for people so that they don't, because you're looking at one program. You're looking at between 8 to 30 hours for one program. Where teaching a class, I can tell you exactly how long it's going to take. Right. I know exactly what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, and I can control it. And that's the one thing I can control is the teaching aspect. So
you told me a interesting little story right before we started. So how did the name Boston Safety and Compliance come about? Because you're Jeffery Barnett.
Yes. It's funny, I keep mentioning Kelly. Kelly's a good friend of mine, and like I says, he's one of the best out there, especially when it comes to fall protection. He's the guru. And he hired me at the roofing company I worked. And because my name's Jeff, you yell Jeff across the job site because you want to get someone's attention, you get a bunch of people turn around. Being the only guy around and with the Bostonian accent, because I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts, it just stuck, and everybody in the construction industry knows me as Boston, so it just fit, and that's how I end up doing it. Kelly's actually the one that told me to do that. He goes, everybody knows you. You might as well just stick with the name that everybody knows you. So it's, when you go on a job site, they know who I am because of my accent, and so that's kind of a cool way to put it.
You've mentioned Kelly a few times, so you had the benefit of having a mentor and a guide who brought you into a career that maybe you weren't thinking about previously.
No, I was not.
So how did you go from whatever you were thinking about doing when you were in high school and college and getting degrees, and then you ended up meeting Kelly and eventually became part of this process?
Well, long story short, my wife had passed away, and some things have happened in my life. And I decided to go, I needed a job. I was a cop. I was no longer a police officer. Didn't know what I was going to do. So I went and got myself what they call a stop-loss job. I'm going to go work for a roofing company for 6 months. That's it. There's no way I'm going to do this more than 6 months.
It was a hard job.
Yes. And I was a sheet metal roofer, so I was on the commercial jobs, hot, there wasn't a shingle roof. Sheet metal is really hot itself. So he hired me as a sheet metal roofer, and I worked my way up, and I got to be a foreman, and I was beating up my body even more. Mm-hmm. So I went back to college and wanted to do my dissertation. No, I didn't want to do my dissertation. Let's be honest, nobody wants to do a dissertation. I don't know anybody that enjoys doing dissertations. So I decided, you know what, I bet you I can get someone to give me all the information. I don't have to do the research. Okay. So I went in his office and I kind of played dumb. He knew what I was doing. He wasn't stupid. Trust me, he's not stupid. He figured out what I was doing before I even walked in the office. So he goes, okay, he's going to play this game too. He helped me with my dissertation. Halfway through the meeting, he gets up and shuts the door. He goes, now, you got what you wanted. I'm going to tell you what I want from this. And he started talking to me about being a safety guy. I said, no. All through this whole conversation, no, not going to happen. Headed home, and I was driving by the university, OSU, and I knew they had a program. My truck just kind of waved in, got some information, and went home. And my wife at the time, I suppose, talking to her, I never did anything without her knowing. She just looks at me, she goes, so when do you start? So I haven't. She goes, no, when do you start? I says, tomorrow night. And that's where it all started. And Kelly ended up leaving, and I ended up going to work for him. And he guided my career in the beginning. And he's still there. He's only a phone call away. So he's in my Rolodex, and we still talk back and forth. And every time I need some expert advice, sometimes we all get brain farts.
Sure.
And when you're stressed out, you get that brain fart, and you know the answer, just can't. It's on the tip of your tongue. You can't get it. He's my go-to call. And he goes, it's here. Okay, thank you. And I hang up. He knows if I hang up quick, that means, yeah, I knew it. I just felt stupid. But we all do that. It doesn't matter what career you're in. We just get so stressed out trying to get everything done. And he is my mentor, and he's the guy. He's my go-to call all the time. So it's nice to see him on the job site when I go on the job sites. Sometimes we've actually battled against each other a couple of times, which is kind of cool. People go, don't you guys isn't that a problem? He goes, no. We'll battle each other. We'll battle wits. I've battled wits with him more than once. I've won some, lost some. It depends on what the situation is. But I know what he knows. He knows what I know. And we come to a conclusion, and we figure things out together sometimes.
And now you have maybe an unexpected career, but a career of business, and you have taken on full force, really made this obviously a part of your life. You're running a business, so you're very invested in it. Mm-hmm. What is your vision for the future?
Well, let me first start. The reason why I'm even in business instead of working for someone is thanks to Kelly. He actually got my business started. He named my business, and he laughs about it to this day. And he's like, yeah, he knew I was going to do this a long time ago. But my vision for the future is I don't want to get too much bigger. I'm basically one-man, two-man shop. I have people that work for me once in a while when I need it. But when you call me, you get me. It's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And if you're wondering, yes, I have been called on Christmas Day.
Well, because work goes on, right? Things happen.
Things happen.
Yeah.
Middle of the night, people call me, things happen. And that's why my phone's on 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, is because if you need something, I'm there to answer that phone call. And that's what you pay for. The difference between me and, say, a VOTEC. The VOTEC teaches your class and you're gone. The difference why I charge more money is because at 3 o'clock in the morning when you have a roofer on a roof because you cannot be there on there during the day because the business is running and someone gets hurt, who are you going to call? I have to be there, and I'm going to be there for you. I'm there whenever and however I can for you and your business. So I'm there to protect you and be there when you need a question answered.
Just the dedication of a business owner.
Yes.
Appreciate you coming on the podcast today, having this conversation, and give us a little bit more insight, a little bit, I think, maybe calming the nerves of being safety compliant and being prepared. And if you have to have an encounter with OSHA or anyone like that, it's really not that big of a deal if you're prepared and you have the right partners in place.
That is correct. If you have everything set up, dealing with them is not as hard as you think it is. Like I said, these guys are not out there, men and women, because it's both men and women. I'm sorry, Megan, if you're listening to this. I love Megan. Megan, I love you and Carmen, so don't get me wrong. But there is mostly men. But yes, there's men and women in OSHA. and they're there to help you. They're not really there, and it gets scary. The scariness goes away when you have someone like me to talk to. I had a client that I couldn't make it there because I was literally on the Texas line when he called me. Turned around and told him, said, "Hey, just tell Ocean, give him my card. Tell him I'm going to be there in 2.5 hours." He says he's not going to be. I know he's going to say not to be there, but just tell him that I am your safety guy, and if he needs any questions answered, to call me. Well, that gives you that feeling. Okay, I'm not here doing this alone. So that's a good thing too. Sometimes I can't be there because of situations, but I'm still there because the OSHA guys know who I am, and they go, okay, we know how to deal with this, and I'll deal with it after the fact because I can't do anything anyways while they're doing their investigation or their inspections. So it's just a matter of let them know who I am, and so that eases you up and eases them up.
Thanks so much for bringing the safety, training, and compliance conversation to the podcast today. It's Jeffrey Barnett. I almost said Boston. See, Jeffrey Barnett, Boston Safety and Compliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Kyle.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow the Golden Group on social media. For more information, past episodes, or to contact us, please visit thegoldengroup.com.